What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Let's get into these bunk boards. Like, I'm ready. Let's go. These are probably the strongest bunk boards I've ever made. 4-inch channel, welded on the outside of the frame, and that is, again, an 8-foot 2x6, just like we're getting ready to recreate. Now, let's look and see how I did this, because I know I used the shop press. Okay, so caved in a little here, caved in a little bit here, and then a round dot right in the middle. That was what I wanted to come see. And then I'm guessing I just used a point here and here. All right, I know what I need to do now. Let's go into the shop and recreate this madness. All right, 20-ton shop press. I cut a piece 16 inches. I think on those I actually bent in the center, but this time I'm going to move it up a little bit because I think I want my 2x6 up here on this. You can see on that one, it sit a little lower, which is fine, but I want to come up here and then angle out. And the whole reason I want to do that is I want to get my board up here as high as possible. And if I can get the top of the board just wide enough to be able to cover this and be up here, that way I'll never run the boat up on top of this, right? So let's see how this goes. I'm tripping over stuff. That's not good. Okay, so I've set up my 20-ton press, and as you can see, I got my points of contact way out on the end. The further it is apart, the easier this will be to bend. So let's see what happens. Okay, so let's see here. Hey, that's not going to work. All right, so, well, what happens if I do this? Hey, that's not too bad. Actually, I could go a little bit more. I got about an inch there. And then I guess I can go up and down here, can't I? The more I go up, the closer it'll get to the boat. And the more I go down, the further away I'll get from the boat. But I still have plenty of elevation here. Okay, I think I can make this work. And I bet if I put this back in the press and push it back on it this way, that I will maintain this bend and push this concave back. But if not, it's really not hurting anything. All right, so we've got the humps, most of the humps laid out of them. Next up, I don't want to leave these tops all sharp. I mean, you can imagine this sticking out on the back of the bunk board is going to be razor sharp. So I want to add an angle profile to all of these tops. I need to drill a couple holes in each one of them, and then I need to remove all the mill scale before we get ready to weld. I took a 2x6, made me a little stopper on it. That way I can slide this down in here and it will be the same every time I slide it down. The goal on my fitment, obviously, is to have this 90 degrees from the rail, but also have this about a 1/4 inch away. Now that's a little too tight. So what I want to do is go ahead and drop it down till I achieve about 3/16 or so, somewhere in there. And then I am taking into consideration that the rails on this frame will flex a little bit, okay? And my wood absolutely will dry a little bit and shrink over time. But what we're going to end up doing, I have some 3/8 thick UHMW polymer, and I'm going to cover my bunk boards. And what will end up happening is after it sits down, it'll be covered in poly and protected. There's no way that the boat can't center itself. It can't touch down here. It can't touch this. It'll be riding on plastic all the way in there. And two, I will be putting poly on the bottom bunk boards, which will raise this up a little bit, which will make this grow. So making sure that this is tight right now is a good idea. Oh, kids, I tell you, springtime's a wild time for me, and I've just been running around in circles between customers dropping off, picking up, trying to make plans to go fish, trying to get my stuff in order to go to Saginaw next weekend, and going to try to go catch some catfish with a buddy and his kid tomorrow. And there's a few things that he doesn't know about his boat that he wants me to kind of teach him, so I'm going to go do that. I got to get this trailer knocked out, man. It's just taking forever, but it's going to be well worth it. Let's see where we're at. So right now we are working on a fender. And you can see I got some 14 gauge here, just bent with a 4-inch, and I have to make it fit. And that's, you know, it's just going to take a little bit of time. We welded all the way around everything. Welds don't look too bad there, and then crawled underneath everywhere. Everything looked pretty good. I do want to cut those off. Those front ones were a little longer than I wanted, and it don't really matter. But then I had leftover of this because this is spare. I actually have another full sheet, but from the spare, I was able to bend that. What do you think of that? Now we got a excessive amount of room up here. It's 14 gauge. It's just sitting there right now. Probably just going to put a few rivets in it and hold it in place because it's plenty stout. I did break the end of it there, so so it looks good. I have a spare tire carrier, and I need to mount it right there. We'll get to that sooner or later. Right now, let's go over here and start machining this, and hopefully we can make it look like this one. We did this one earlier today, and so we've got 5 holes for marker lights on there. We made it fit the front. It's flush enough. We could put our piece of aluminum back on here and then turf the rest, or whatever we want to do. Our bunk board brackets look really good and strong. Can't wait to get our boards on there. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with paint. Went to hardware store today and looked, and gloss white actually kind of thought that was a good idea. I got an Oxford white Ford truck. I know that's kind of boring, but so's black. And I'm going to put a boat in scummy water all the time, and neither's a good choice. Yellow looked good, but then I was like, man, yellow doesn't go with the boat at all. I don't know. I just don't think there's a right answer right now. I'm probably just going to go with lame and make it one color, and that's just probably what's going to happen. Let's get to fabricating and getting this other fender. So one thing I seldom do is explain how I custom fit parts. Now, obviously, we're starting out with a square part, and I went with 4 inches here because that's how deep this is, 4 inches, okay? But this isn't the complete width of this, okay? I want to come out somewhere in here, in this flat spot. That's my landing. I don't want to be out here on this cope, but I want to land on this landing somewhere, okay? And it just so happened that the piece that I had to cut this from was 30 inches, so I started with 2 15-inch pieces, which left me about 10 1/4 here, 4 deep, and then a 3/4 inch tab. It worked out pretty good. So I've got about 10 1/4 inches, which is going to end me right in here somewhere. But looking at that, I mean, you might think that that is square to this, but being off a degree or two, one way or the other, absolutely will manipulate your fitment. So we need to fit that. We also need to French in around this, okay? And we also have to adjust for this not being as wide as that. So the part's going to taper down, meaning we are going to trim every single piece to this to get it to fit in here. And it gets kind of complex unless you take it slow. First thing we're going to do is figure out how to get this taper. You see, I've already got it marked here, okay? We know we're going to leave as much width to that as possible, but how did we come up with this taper? Another thing I wanted to explain was when we cut off this fender, it was left with a cope, okay? And it is going to be much easier to get that square piece to line up with this if it's cut square. So we put a square on there, marked a line, and then we're going to just mark this off square back here, okay? That way this is all square. Then take my tape measure, and I find that from here to where we're going to cut off is 8 1/2 inches, all right? So now I'm going to go backwards on this piece because I want this corner to match up with this corner. So I measure from here back 8 1/2 inches. That's my mark there. I'm going to use all of this, and that is how I come up with that taper. Now, once we get that taper, we can worry about fitting up this edge and fitting up this edge. So now that we've trimmed this and we have trimmed our taper here, I want to go ahead and set this up here, but with intent. Okay, I'm not trying to fit it. Now that I've got that taper, this is the first edge that is done. Okay, I'm not going to manipulate this edge anymore, but I am going to cut around this in the future. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this end is equal distance from this end, okay, because that is a straight edge. Now that will give me the proper angle of this fitment. Oh, we got it, you know, sitting straight. I can just take this tape measure, lay it over, and hold it up against my fender, and then go ahead and mark it. Now that's probably too much. I probably don't want to sacrifice that much, but you know, that gives you a quick reference, right? I don't have to worry about, is this exactly 90 degrees, okay? I'm using the edge and transferring it. That's way faster than actually even getting a square over here and trying to figure out, is that square, is it right? I don't know. Let's lay this on here. Look at that. Look at the difference. No, it's not square at all. It's like 4 degrees off a square, but that's okay. All right, so we cut our taper here and we actually shoved this up against the fender. I want this as tight as possible. Now we're going to mark this cope, and it's going to take a little bit of eyeballing, okay? We're going to do the best we can. And then if we get it wrong, we just keep coming back, because we have that angle, we have this angle, and we have about 2 inches of play to cut off. So if we get it wrong the first time, it's no big deal. Just keep going until we get it to fit. Now that we have a decent cope, I won't say that it's great, but it's decent, okay? We can come up and kind of mark what we got going on here. Now, you see I got the back of that etched. That's a guess, okay? The top of this is actually sticking away from our rail just a little bit. You can also take a piece of scrap channel and put it on here and mark it out if you want to. Just remember that we do have a little bit of deflection here. It's not square like it used to be. All right, every time you cut this, you kind of want to double check and look. And if we stand in front of it, we can see that we're kind of missing here a little bit. You know, it's going to be really tight. One thing to think about is right here, okay? That's fairly tight. So more than likely, I'm not going to be able to push this that way. So I might be a little tight there, but right now we can't go any deeper because we're actually bottoming out right there. Okay, so all I need to do now is make sure that this gap is even. And if we cut this piece square to begin with, we can go ahead and put our square on here and then go ahead and match up this line. Now, as you can see, I have the square lined up exactly on this, and I do not want to cut it short. So the way I set this is to where I can cut this black line off and not take any extra material. Okay, that's looking pretty good, ladies and gentlemen. That gap got tighter. I'm sitting up on top of that weld right there, but that's okay. That seam reached good enough to weld. This is way tighter than the other side was. My seam looks good right down through there. We can fill that with weld, no problem. And then this is just laying here. So there's nothing underneath this, okay? Once I hold this up here, I can tack that in place. But my primary objective is to make sure that I get this outer edge right here fit properly. And that's fit just as good as it can be. Hey, we forgot one thing. Let's poke some holes in this. So we got about 33 inches here, and I just scribed the center line here because it's 4 inches wide, right? So we're 2 and 2. Started 2 inches off the corner. And then I wanted to even these out, and I come down here and I can squeeze one in at 32 inches. So now I have 30 inches, and I wanted about 5 lights there. So I just went 7.5 inches on center, and I could do this with a step bit. I could do this with a hole saw bit, but I have a fancy new mag drill. And one thing about a mag drill is you need meat, okay? 14 gauge is not going to stick very well. But over here on this jig table, that magnet's going to stick really good. So I've got everything just kind of viced to the table here. We will use the table as an anvil and then go ahead and run our mag drill down and poke these holes out nice and precision-like.
I hope you enjoyed that segment, because I enjoyed making it for you. Now, I'm not good at what I do. I just get lucky over and over and over again consecutively. Hope my luck don't run out anytime soon.